Ambassador Zethkar adjusted his breathing apparatus nervously as he approached the towering crystalline structure that housed the Galactic Council's archives. For 3 cycles, he had been tasked with cataloging the newest member species, the humans from the 3rd planet of the Sol system. What should have been routine paperwork had become the most terrifying discovery in galactic history. The humans called their world Earth, a simple designation that meant ground or soil in their dominant languages. The Council had accepted this name without question, as they did with all species. After all, what harm could there be in a name? Zethkar's 6 eyes blinked in sequence as he recalled his first encounter with humans 6 months ago. They had seemed unremarkable, bipedal carbon-based with primitive fusion technology and barely functional faster-than-light drives. Their military consisted of crude kinetic weapons and basic energy shields. By galactic standards, they were infants playing with toys. But something had nagged at him. The humans' casual confidence, their strange habit of smiling when discussing warfare, the way they spoke of their homeworld with both love and a peculiar sense of inevitability. Most disturbing of all was how they consistently underestimated their own capabilities while somehow achieving impossible things. The archive's quantum consciousness recognized his credentials and granted access to the deepest historical records. Zethkar had spent weeks cross-referencing astronomical data, ancient texts, and forgotten databases. What he found made his chitinous exoskeleton tremble. Earth's coordinates matched. The mythical world spoken of in whispers across 1,000 species referenced in the oldest texts of the Vorthak Empire, mentioned in the death songs of the extinct Millennium Builders, was real. And the humans, these seemingly ordinary creatures, lived on it. The ancient name wasn't Earth, it was Cathera in the old tongue, the Forge of Nightmares. Zethkar's research had uncovered fragments of a story that most galactic historians dismissed as legend. Billions of years ago, when the galaxy was young and the first civilizations were reaching for the stars, there had been warnings about a particular world. A death world so hostile that it would forge the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen. The old text described a planet where the very air was toxic to most life, where massive creatures hunted for sport, where the weather systems could level cities, and where the dominant species would eventually consume their own kind for resources, before turning their appetites outward to the stars. The ancients had called it the Nightmare Forge because any species that survived there would become something terrible. But the coordinates had been lost to time, the warnings dismissed as mythology. Until now. Zethkar pulled up the environmental data on Earth and compared it to the ancient descriptions. The match was perfect, down to the unusual oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere that would be toxic to 78% of known species, the gravitational constant that would crush most civilized beings, the solar radiation levels that required most galactic visitors to wear protective gear. But it was the biological data that truly terrified him. Humans shared their world with creatures that belonged in nightmares. They lived alongside predators that could tear through modern combat armor. They had survived ice ages, volcanic winters, plague, and countless extinction events. They had domesticated wolves, creatures, so vicious that most galactic species classified them as uncontainable hostiles, and somehow, impossibly, humans considered their world peaceful. The archive suddenly chimed with an urgent message. Zethkar's secondary stomach dropped as he read the contents. The human delegation had requested an emergency session with the full council. They claimed to have important information about galactic security. By the time Zethkar reached the council chambers, word had already begun to spread through the diplomatic quarters. The Zenthari ambassador was visibly shaking. The Corvin delegation had sealed themselves in their embassy. Even the usually unflappable ethereals were emanating waves of concern through their psychic networks. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the podium, her expression calm and professional. Behind her, holographic displays showed star maps marking various sectors of the galaxy. She appeared completely unaware of the growing panic around her. "Honored counselors," Chen began in her steady voice, "we've been monitoring communications throughout our sector and have identified several potential security threats that we thought you should know about. She gestured to the first display. We've detected mining operations in the Vega system that appear to be strip mining planetary cores. Our analysts believe this could destabilize the entire system within 50 years. The council sat in stunned silence. The Vega operations belonged to the hegemony of Cross, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Humans had somehow penetrated their security and analyzed their classified operations. Additionally, Chen continued, seemingly oblivious to the terror she was causing, we've noticed unusual fleet movements in sectors 7 through 12. The pattern suggests preparation for large-scale territorial expansion. We thought you might want to investigate. She was casually describing military intelligence that should have been impossible for humanity to obtain. The species she was referring to had technology centuries ahead of human capabilities. Finally, Chen said, her smile never wavering, we've identified what appears to be a developing situation in the Outer Rim. Several civilizations seem to be experiencing internal conflicts that could lead to refugee crises. We'd be happy to assist with humanitarian aid if needed. Zethkar felt his breathing apparatus fail. The humans weren't just reporting threats. They were offering to help. These creatures who lived on the Forge of Nightmares, who had survived their death world and somehow convinced themselves they were ordinary, were now volunteering to solve the galaxy's problems. As Chen concluded her presentation, a silence fell over the council chambers that stretched across light years. Every species present suddenly understood what they were facing. Humanity hadn't just survived Kythera. They had thrived on it. They had turned a nightmare world into a garden and called it home. And now they were here, smiling and offering to help, completely unaware that they were the most terrifying force the galaxy had ever encountered. The age of human expansion had begun. The galaxy would never be the same.